there. Welcome to today's presentation regarding our performance management process. As you've hopefully already heard, over the last few months, HR has worked together in collaboration with members of our global management team to create a proposal for how we'd like to see our performance management process in our new combined organization. AVO Deepin and Capco Global had different ways for dealing with this process, so we took some time to evaluate our similarities, our differences, and some potential new and best practices, and then combine these elements into one solution. So this process will apply to the interim period between now and the end of this fiscal year on March 31st, 2018. Let's start with the end in mind. Performance evaluations measure the degree to which an employee accomplishes work requirements, and effective performance management can facilitate and promote improvement in our overall organizational performance and hopefully enhance employee job satisfaction. So the purposes of the company's overall performance management process are to improve productivity through constructive feedback, to help in allocating rewards and opportunities, to help in determining employees' aspirations and planning developmental needs, to foster communication and mutual understanding between employees and management, to communicate our expectations, and finally to maintain performance records. So our presentation today is going to cover the following topics. We'll be looking at the interim performance appraisal cycle. We'll be looking at the steps for the first part of this process, which we'll call the performance planning stage. We'll be taking an in-depth look at information about setting performance objectives and establishing development activities, which is really the core of this performance planning process. We'll give you a brief introduction to the organizational competencies that employees will be evaluated on during their annual year-end appraisal in combination with these performance objectives. We'll take a quick look at the timeline for the performance planning or objective setting process. And finally, we'll give you some more information on additional tools and resources available to support employees and managers throughout this effort. So let's take a look at our performance appraisal cycle. This starts with step 1, which is the main focus of our presentation today. This is the planning process of setting performance objectives and development activities for all employees. We will then have a simple mid-year progress evaluation to check progress on our objectives and goals and make appropriate adjustments. So sometimes priorities change, new people come on board, employees transfer between departments, and so on. So we just want to make sure that we're on track and our objectives and goals stay relevant throughout the course of the year. This will not be a full-blown review with a lot of steps or scoring, just a simple progress update between employee and manager on those objectives. And finally, we'll have our year-end appraisal to evaluate individual employee performance. Will be evaluated on a series of organizational competencies as well as how well we met our performance objectives. So that's the big picture. For now, we'd like to move our attention really to that first step, performance objectives and development. So this process, which will be facilitated through our halogen system, involves several steps and milestones. We intend for performance to be a collaborative process, so employees will be contributing by proposing some goals, objectives, and development-related activities for themselves. Managers are going to consider their employees' input along with the mission, goals, and priorities for the department and the organization before finalizing 4 performance objectives and up to 3 development-related activities for each of their team members. Our second level managers will review the final proposal before finally managers and employees meet to review the document together and complete their electronic signatures through the system. So let's take a deeper dive into what we mean by performance objectives and development activities and some of the specifics you'll need to be aware of before you begin. Performance objectives are essentially goals that translate job expectations into tangible results that employees can deliver. So we'll provide some examples in a few minutes, but generally we're talking about measurable targets like productivity quotas, quality rates, growth or savings goals, excuse me, and other key performance indicators for a specific job. So performance objectives might also include various projects or initiatives that employees need to deliver on or produce some desired results, such as integration-related projects or process improvements, for example. Performance objectives will be directly evaluated on the year-end appraisal. Development, on the other hand, are activities that promote the employee's continuous improvement. So this is where we push ourselves and really help our employees to sharpen the saw through continuous learning and development. Development activities help us with increasing proficiency with job-specific or organizational competencies. They help us acquire new knowledge, skills, and abilities. And they even increase understanding and quality in our working relationships. So while we here traditionally might think of training, which is definitely a part of development activities, there are many things that can fall under this umbrella. Take job shadowing, joining a professional association, leading a Franklin Covey meeting, participating on a committee like ESOP or safety, maybe as just a few other examples. All right, a few more specifics, starting with performance objectives. So employees and managers will collaborate and use the halogen system to define and finalize 4 SMART performance objectives. We'll review the SMART criteria shortly. And then if desired, the performance objectives can be further broken down into sub-targets or sub-objectives that help break the overall objective into more manageable stages or steps. Each of the 4 objectives must be assigned a weight based on its relative importance or priority, with a maximum weight of 35% for any one objective. And of course, the combined weight of all 4 of these objectives must total 100%. The development activities, on the other hand, are a bit more flexible, with an option to establish between 1 and 3. And so while you may undertake any number of development activities throughout the year, we've limited to 3 through the process in order to help emphasize the priorities and help employees and managers kind of put first things first in terms of what employees should focus on in order to, again, increase proficiency with job-specific or organizational competencies, acquire new knowledge, skills, and abilities, and of course, increase understanding and quality in working relationships. So establishing effective performance objectives for ourselves or our employees is absolutely critical. This means that first and foremost, they should be derived from the mission, goals, and values of the organization. We can have the best of intentions in our goal setting, but if our efforts don't support the strategic direction of the organization, we're simply less effective. And we want everyone to have a very clear line of sight to how they contribute to the success of the company. To achieve this, we'll be linking or aligning each objective to one of the organizational KPIs or key performance indicators. We're going to demonstrate how to do this in Halogen and give you some clearer understanding of the type of objectives that support each of the KPIs. But these include our organizational priorities surrounding customer loyalty, employee engagement, growth, innovation, inventory and labor productivity, and supplier partnerships. And then we've even added one extra link option specifically for integration efforts, as of course this remains a top priority. Effective performance objectives should also be reflective of the scope of the position, developed collaboratively and mutually understood. So managers and employees should both have a voice in this process, as well as the leadership of the organizational unit in, how do we translate those organizational KPIs into KPIs and priorities for our function, for our department, and for our team. Performance objectives should be expressed in measurable and observable terms and clearly defined with expected results. They should describe how a job is to be performed and what fully satisfactory performance looks like. Of course, they need to be reasonable and attainable, and hopefully sufficiently challenging to motivate performance and really get the best out of people. So, using the SMART goal setting technique will help us achieve this with our performance objectives by offering a clear statement of the results we expect and how this will be measured. So let's just go through quickly the SMART criteria. S is for specific. The description of the objective is clear and concrete. We know what is to be accomplished and what definitive actions must be taken to get it done. M is for measurable. So how will we know we're successful? What observable data will we use to figure out questions like how much, how often, or how well the objective has been met? Measurable goals allow us to clearly and objectively apply a simple yes or no as to whether the goal has been successfully achieved by the deadline. A is for achievable. So, can the employee actually affect the outcome without significant dependence on others or external factors? Does the employee have sufficient experience and knowledge? Do they have the resources, the authority, the time, and support necessary to achieve it? Is the objective within our circle of influence? That's a good way to pose the question. And if it's not completely, oftentimes we have to work I'm having trouble with that word. Collaboratively with other people to achieve important objectives and targets. So this is where we may need to add some sub-targets that the employee can specifically influence the outcome or result. R is for relevant. So does the objective support the mission and priorities of the department and the most important goals of the organization? We need to know, why is this important? Why is this worth spending time on? Why are we measuring performance against this objective? And again, does the employee have a clear line of sight for how the objective contributes to organizational priorities and success? And then finally, T is for time-bound or time-based. So when do you start and when should you be finished? A clear start date and end date is agreed. Establishing and maintaining timelines is imperative for effective planning and accountability. And remember, dates can and should be adjusted throughout the year and during the mid-year progress check, for example, to really reflect changing priorities and organizational realities. So this kind of simplified goal statement can be used as a tool to help you evaluate whether the objective really meets the SMART criteria. It starts with do, and then you fill in your specific action. In order to fill in your measurable, relevant, expected result. By, fill in your due date, and if applicable, the potential milestone deadlines along the way. And then you want to review the whole thing again to determine whether it's achievable, whether it's in the circle of influence, and if not, adjust the objective or add sub-targets. So let's now move into the halogen system and show you some sample objectives and how to tie or link them to the organizational KPIs. Okay, so now it's time for me to go ahead and propose some objectives and development requests for myself. I'm going to start with objectives, and let's just go ahead and do a sample one. Let's say for a warehouse or logistics employee. First thing I want to do is give my goal a title, and it can be something very simple and straightforward. And then I'm going to use this open box to provide more detail and more specifics to help make this a truly SMART objective. So I've called this order processing productivity, and my objective is to maintain an average quantity of 150 orders packaged and shipped per week. I'm going to go ahead and give this objective a high maximum relative weighting of 35% because I know in terms of my job, getting orders shipped and out the door in a timely manner to our customers is one of the most important ways that I can impact the success of my department meet the customer's needs and make sure that the company meets its goals. So this is a big priority. I'm also going to give this a due date. I've chosen in this example the end of the calendar year because I know this is an ongoing objective. This is something I'm going to do on a weekly basis, but it's going to continue through the end of the performance evaluation period. The next thing I want to do is link my objective to one of the organizational goals. I do that by clicking that little Earth button, and it's going to open a list of our current KPIs or key performance indicators as a company, as well as one additional that is specific to integration projects and activities for the KGAD integration efforts, or ADKG integration efforts, whichever you prefer. In this case, I see one called labor productivity, and that sounds interesting and very related to me. We're talking about order processing productivity, so getting orders out the door as quickly as possible, or maintaining a standard for that, I'll say. So when I open up and click on these, I'll get an idea of how the organization is going to really be measuring this goal. And then I'll also get an idea of the types of objectives that would fall under this category. So I see objectives that support labor productivity will support our ability to work more effectively and efficiently, leverage our internal resources to maximum potential, and to optimize our labor costs. And I really think that that fits well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this box, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on link. And now I can see an additional Earth symbol here with an orange link, which lets me know that my goal has successfully been linked to the organizational KPI. You do see that you have the option to enter these additional sub-objectives. However, I think this is a pretty straightforward objective. It doesn't require any additional daily tasks, or it may, but nothing that I think really needs to be outlined within the performance objective form here. So I'm going to go ahead and leave these blank. Before I move on, I'm going to check my SMART criteria and really make sure, does this objective meet all of those criteria? So S, is this a specific objective? Does it clearly and concretely describe an observable action, behavior, or outcome, which can also be described with a number, an amount, a percentage, or some kind of quantitative information? And I think we can say definitively, yes, I know exactly what it is that I'm proposing or expected to do, and that's maintain 150 orders packaged and shipped per week average through the end of the year. So it's both specific, and in that way it's also measurable. 150 orders on a weekly basis, and it's an average. The next thing I want to ask myself is the A, is this achievable? Can I actually affect the outcome without significant dependence on others or external factors? Do I have the sufficient experience and knowledge in order to achieve this? Do I have the resources, the authority, the time, the support, etc.? So while that is not necessarily inherent in the language of the objective, I know as an employee, you know what, I've been working here for 4 years now. I've been in this job for 2. I know that this is an achievable goal. It's one that's going to challenge me a little bit, but I definitely know that I can do this. There's 10 other people in my department. Some of them do 170, 180 orders a day. Others maybe do a little bit less. But I understand, and my manager has also explained to me very clearly, that we need to do at least 150 on average in order to meet the shipping needs for our customers. So I believe this is achievable. I will want to talk to my manager if, for example, I've been called to work on another project, or I know I'm going to be out on vacation for a couple of weeks, or suddenly the number of orders has slowed down significantly or increased significantly. So are all things that are going to affect my ability to achieve my average. And so I'm going to want to be in continuous communication with my manager if there are factors that I need help overcoming in order to be successful doing this. I'm also going to want to be creative and come up with my own solutions if I can. So I want to ask myself, is this relevant? And I think we've identified that by weighting this with maximum percentage. Absolutely. There is a clear organizational KPI that this is tied to. And also, this is the bread and butter of the business, right? Getting the orders out to the customers in a timely manner. So this is just one example of a SMART goal for an operations employee. Oh, forgive me, I skipped time bound. And there are a couple of time-oriented checks that we can do with this objective. One is we know that we're looking for an average on a weekly basis, and we know we want this to continue from now until the end of the year. So there we go, SMART, we've got it all. But as I was saying, this is one objective, sample objective for an operations or logistics employee. So we know that our productivity is very important. We also know the quality of work is very important. So I might propose another goal for myself to maintain a minimum number of errors or rejections or so forth, also, on a weekly basis, something kind of similar. So you just think about the things that you're expected to do in your job, what you know are the priorities and what are important, and how can you turn that into a SMART objective that's within your circle of influence, that's achievable, and that will support those organizational goals. So for the sake of the demo, I have gone ahead and filled in the rest of them. Remember, we're going to be proposing 4 objectives for ourselves. I've done a couple of different types of employees. This next one, for example, is an office supply expense reduction objective. This is for an administrative employee who is responsible for ordering office supplies for the team. And the objective that he has proposed for himself is to reduce the office supply spending by 10 to 15% over the next year. This employee knows that they're going to need some help, right? There's a lot of external factors that are going to influence his ability to achieve this. And so he has broken it down into some sub-objectives for himself that are really within his circle of influence to help collaborate with others in order to achieve this very important goal. Those include things like performing an analysis of spending on supplies purchased over the past year or 2 years, for example, to establish a benchmark. So before I know what 10 to 15% improvement is, I have to have an understanding of what I've been spending. So that's my first step. And then he's going to identify the most costly items and categories of supplies purchased. So he's really going to find out, where's the bulk of this cost going? Is it copy paper, or is it toilet paper, or what is it that we can really focus on to maximize cost savings? He's going to negotiate with current suppliers for better pricing, like bulk discounts, and research lower cost alternatives with suppliers and options for that. And he's going to brainstorm with the site manager and other managers and key personnel or heavy supply users around the office to strategize on ways that we can all work together to reduce usage, reuse supplies, and other opportunities for savings. So this isn't 100% within his control to achieve, but there are definite concrete steps that he can take to help influence this. And we've given it a weight, we've given it a due date. You can see it's been linked to one of the organizational goals. I'm going to go ahead and click on this one because I want to show you. If you change your mind, you can always click remove, and now we have the opportunity to choose a different one. You may find that among the KPIs and the organizational goals listed that there could potentially be some crossover. And when you find that, just go ahead and choose the one that you feel most significantly represents the spirit of what you're trying to accomplish with the objective. So for example, I see one here called inventory productivity, and I can see that the organization is measuring inventory productivity KPI in terms of gross margin dollar per dollar of inventory. And I know from speaking with my manager and learning more about the KPIs that what we're really talking about here is our product-related inventory. So not necessarily the office supplies that we have on hand. So while this makes sense in a number of ways in terms of the language, this may not be the best fit for this particular objective. I'm actually going to go with another one called innovation culture. And innovation culture will be measured globally through our innovation score. However, objectives under this KPI category are things that support our continuous improvement activities, entrepreneurial thinking, and ownership mindset, and of course, the development of creative, forward-thinking solutions for the company, our customers, our suppliers, and our industry. And for me, I feel this better captures the spirit of what I'm trying to do. I'm really trying to get creative on how I can lower office supplies. I'm thinking like an owner. I'm trying to be entrepreneurial in saving costs for the organization. So I'm going to go with innovation culture, link, and voila. Moving on, we have another objective sample here. This one is designed, let's say, for an outside sales representative. And although they have very specific goals, maybe that their manager has established with them in terms of the volume of sales or the volume of sales growth that's expected over the year, another thing that they might want to work on is relationship development with customers under contract that they're assigned to. So I've left the description as complete the following sub-objectives over the next year in an effort to deepen the customer relationship with your contracted accounts. So I'm proposing as a sales rep that I am going to perform 6 on-site customer visits per customer before the year end. And I'm going to complete a trip report and identify the issues and opportunities, improvements, and actions to be taken as an outcome of the visit. I'm going to coordinate the customer coming to visit one of our facilities at least once per year. I'm going to schedule and lead a quarterly contract performance review with key contacts at the customer, so we can keep updated on how we're performing against the expectations of our contract. And again, identify opportunities that we might not otherwise if we weren't maintaining that kind of communication. And as a fourth sub-objective, I'm going to consult with the product management group at least quarterly regarding product lines for my contracted customers, so I can review trends and market conditions and again identify new insights and actions. So this is all about, what is within my circle of influence to be able to deepen and maintain my relationship with this contracted customer, to open the lines of communication and really give myself those opportunities to grow and increase my sales. So when I'm looking at KPIs to connect this to, I've chosen the customer loyalty. I could have chosen perhaps growth. We do have a KPI related specifically to growth, and objectives in this category support smart growth through sales and business development activities that result in long-term success, increased market share and profitability with a healthy return on investment. So I think that certainly applies. However, I feel customer loyalty may be more at the heart of what I'm trying to go for here. And these are activities that directly or indirectly support continuous improvement with our customer net promoter score and the creation of brand loyalty. And brand loyalty includes the tendency of our customers to continue buying from us instead of our competitors and to recommend our products and services to others. And this is what I'm really trying to achieve. I'm trying to maintain their business. I'm trying to maintain a positive relationship with them so that they continue to want to work with us, continue to want to give us more business, and recommend us to others. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that customer loyalty category and link. I feel this is incredibly important to my ability to be successful and to contribute to the organization, give myself a due date, etc. So you see the pattern. And here's a final one. I won't go into too much detail, but this is a different type of objective that I thought I should share with you. This one is an integration project that's been assigned to someone or that I would like to participate in. So I'm going to propose that I would like to be a part of this team integration project to evaluate, select, and implement an appropriate integrated software solution to satisfy our global quality document control needs. So I know that both AVO Deepin and Capco Global have their own processes and systems and software related to document control, and that over the course of the next, 7 months, we're going to need to either pick one of those solutions or identify a new one. And I really want to be involved with that because that affects my job and I feel that I can contribute to this. And I have definitely broken down this one into a number of different sub-objectives and activities to help support this because, again, this is a collaborative type objective. This isn't something I can do on my own, so I have to really work on identifying where are my areas of influence in order to achieve this measurable goal. And I want to make sure that I go through and get the SMART criteria, give this a weight, give it a due date, and connect it to an appropriate organizational goal. In this case, I have chosen the general integration activities. So that's the process of performance objectives and gives you a sample and some different ideas for various types of positions. If you're stuck, I would encourage you to speak with your manager, speak with others on your team, and really reflect on your role in the organizational KPIs, for example, the goals of the company, and what can you specifically do to help affect a positive outcome in that. It's important that with your objectives, there's line of sight between what you're doing and your team's mission and the company's overall objectives. And hopefully that'll give you some ideas. You can work with your manager, you can work with human resources to help kind of flesh out the details and make sure that they meet the SMART criteria. The second part of this form is to request development activities. So development activities again differ from performance objectives. Performance objectives are about getting results that support the mission and the goals of the team and the organization. Development activities are about helping you as an employee improve. So these are continuous improvement activities for employees. They're going to help you perform better on your performance objectives as well as develop those important organizational competencies. So although these are not measured as part of your year-end appraisal evaluation, they're still extremely important for making sure that you continue to advance your knowledge, skills, and abilities and to become more efficient and proficient at your job and to prepare you for future opportunities. So I've put in an example. You're going to give it in a title. This one I've called Excel Training, and I've given it just a random due date for the demo. But I've also provided a little more detail for my manager to help him or her understand why I want to do this and why I feel this training is important. And you can see it says, complete an advanced Excel training course to enhance data analysis skills and familiarity with complex formulas and data manipulation. And essentially a reason why, what this training will help me with, and it's to improve the quality of my analysis and insights gleaned from my monthly KPI reporting and a semi-annual analysis project that I have to do. So I've given a little bit of justification on how this is going to help me and help the organization. I can add additional, so the form will default to just one category, but if you'd like to go ahead and add one, just simply click this button and it'll open up another, and you can click it again to open up a third. The maximum number of development activities you can request is 3, so it's really important to prioritize and think about what's most important. Let's do one more just to give you an idea of a completely different type of development activity. So most of us think of training kind of automatically, but another one that we might consider is a job shadow activity. This is something that is going to help me increase understanding and quality in my working relationships. So for this particular development activity, what I'm proposing is that I spend about 8 hours job shadowing with 2 members of the inside sales and customer service team. And that during that time I will observe what they do, and I also have some open dialogue with them about the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that are really needed to perform the job. And the reason that I want to do this is because I work in human resources and I recruit for inside sales and customer service often. And let's just say that I'm having some trouble finding good qualified candidates to meet their needs. And I think that by spending more time with them and really getting a better understanding of what they do on a daily basis, that I'll be able to recruit more effectively. So that's a completely different type of development activity, but equally as valuable as developing my skills, especially since this supports not only my development but my internal customer. So again, you just want to make sure that you give it a date. I'm going to give this one relatively soon because I feel, again, this is important, and let's just say I have a couple of job openings. If you want to remove one of these, there's no minimum or maximum on the development activities. These are really more flexible than the objectives, but you can again add development plans or remove them as you see fit. But now we've completed our form, so we can either hit save and come back and work on this later, or we can go ahead and hit complete. I'm ready to hit complete. So the first thing that's going to happen is a spell checker, and this can be helpful. Sometimes the spell checker doesn't recognize some of our industry jargon. It is English language spell checker, so if you're writing in Dutch or another language, just be prepared. You might have to hit the ignore button multiple times in order to get through this. But I've completed my spell check. The next thing that comes up is a language check, which is essentially the system looking, is there any problematic language? Are there any words in there that could potentially be discriminatory or harmful or inappropriate? Fortunately, it's found no errors, so I can go ahead and close this. And then it's going to give me a final message just saying that, once you complete this, you're not going to be able to modify. Are you really sure you want to do this? And if I'm not, I can click cancel, but I am, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And worst case scenario, even if I hit OK and I want to make changes later, I can always reach out to my human resources representative and ask them to reset the status of the form so that I can make changes again. Once I've hit complete, I can now see the form. This form is also now visible to my manager, so he or she is able to see the objectives that I propose as well as the training and development requests. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Okay, welcome back. So earlier we promised to introduce you to the new organizational competencies that will be measured in the year-end appraisal in addition to these 4 SMART objectives. So the first 5 core competencies will apply to everyone. They include customer orientation, which involves thinking and acting in alignment with both internal and external customer interests to develop and sustain those productive, mutually beneficial customer relationships. The second is personal effectiveness, and this involves working effectively and efficiently to really maximize our personal contribution to the business. The third is group effectiveness, which involves working actively and effectively with other people to achieve common goals and create synergy. The fourth is the drive and commitment competency, and this involves being proactive, pursuing our objectives with passion, enthusiasm, and tenacity, and persevering in the face of opposition to overcome challenges. The fifth core competency that applies to everyone is innovation, which involves developing new insights into situations, thinking outside of the box, and applying different and really creative solutions to make improvements within the organization or for our customers. For individual contributors, the sixth competency will be self-management and independence. And this involves holding ourselves accountable and being reliable to meet our commitments and to act with integrity without the need for close and constant supervision. For managers, the sixth competency will be leadership, and this involves the ability to think, to inspire, to mobilize, and to empower your teams to get desired results and really develop people to their fullest potential. So we will provide you with some supplemental resources that include very specific behavioral examples for each competency for different types of positions throughout the organization, so that each competency has meaning and relevance to individual employees. All right, so let's take a look at our timeline for the upcoming planning process. The entire process runs July 10th through September 1st. And then we've added some milestones along the way to ensure the process progresses in a timely manner and that everyone along the way has sufficient time to complete their part. If you take a look, the first step is that employees propose objectives and development. This starts Monday, July 10th and runs for 2 weeks through Friday the 21st. During that time, the managers can begin the process of also working on objectives and development. Remember, this is a collaborative process, so you'll want to make sure that you wait until you receive the input from your employees before you submit and finalize those on for the next level manager, but you will be able to work on those simultaneously. And that is actually a 4-week process. I think it says 2 weeks there, but if you look July 10th to August 4th, that gives managers 4 weeks to work on those objectives. Sorry about that. Those steps have to be completed before the next 3 can begin. So the second level manager step could begin August 5th if deadlines are met, or even sooner if those prior steps have been completed before the deadline. And that runs through August 11th, so minimum of 1 week, potentially more depending upon, again, when those first steps are completed. Then you've got the discussions between employee and manager, so the sit down and going over those finalized, formalized objectives and learning activities. And that would begin August 12th, or again sooner if the second level manager has signed off. And the deadline for that is August 25th. So that gives a minimum of 2 weeks for managers and employees to have those meetings. And then finally, we have a last step, which is just our electronic signatures. We've given, within 1 week following the performance planning meeting to have this done. It's a very simple process, so hopefully that goes smoothly, but that is due by September 1st. All right, a few more details and then I promise we'll wrap it up. We will be using Halogen across the entire organization, so AVO Deepin and Capco Global employees for this process. The link for the Halogen site was updated about a year ago, and the old one will no longer redirect you to the site. So you can find this link in all of the system-generated emails you can expect to receive during the process. As always, you will get notifications when the process begins and when you have a task to complete, and hopefully not, but when you have a task that is overdue. You can also find this link in the SharePoint or the Capco Connect site should you need it. Your username has been changed if you are a current user. So all usernames are now your email address, which ensures that everyone has a unique, easy to remember username. So if you have previously used Halogen, your password remains the same. That hasn't been touched. But if you are a new user, you will receive an email to set one up. And remember, at any time you can use the Forgot Password feature on the login page to retrieve or reset this information for yourself. You can always contact HR for assistance. On the 10th of July, an invitation email will be sent inviting everyone to the beginning of the process. You may also receive emails related to tasks in terms of beginning the process of proposing your own objectives, or managers beginning the process of setting objectives for their team members. So please be sure to check your junk mail folder or your FortiMail inbox for quarantined items if you are missing alerts and system emails. And finally, we've put together some written guidelines, including some valuable tips and tricks, as well as a comprehensive video-based training series covering every step of the process, including an overview of the general user interface for Halogen for both employees and managers. There are 10 relatively short modules in all, and you can choose to watch all the videos or just the topics that are of interest to you. And then we will also upload a copy of this presentation in case you want to watch all or parts of it again at a later date. Capco employees can simply search for Halogen in the Flight School course library to find these resources. select the course called Performance Planning Presentation and Halogen Training to get started. Again, there you'll find a copy of this presentation, those guidelines and tips and tricks resources, as well as those individual video snippets on different parts of the process. So new users may benefit from watching all of the halogen system training, and other people might just want a refresher on some of the steps. So feel free to use it how it makes sense for you. Our AVO Deepen team members can access these resources and videos through the SharePoint site. So thank you so much for your time today. If you need support with objective setting, please ask your manager. Your local HR representative can also assist you with this process or with any questions you may have.